Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, the Road Dog, with none other than the man, the myth, the business coaching legend, Karl Bryan is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Do we need
Is that it? I'm waiting for. That's not you. You have beans in your pants today, bud. You're on fire after the pre.
I need audio. Like I need to have like the clappy hands and the woo woo woo, like all that stuff. This needs to happen. Like it's just not the same. Anyways, I was just mentioning on the pre-show about how, hey, this podcast is available on all sorts of streaming services. Dude, that Spotify Netflix series you recommended, how good is that?
Oh, home run. Playlist? You're talking Spotify?
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good. Like and the coolest part is, here's sort of my initial takeaways. I think I'm like 3 or 4 episodes and I think there's only 6 of them. But what was interesting to me was how unique everyone is, right? The first one from the founder. And like when it truly clicked for him, I'm like, I paused it and I looked at my wife and I'm like that was his moment where he was like, oh, that's who I need to target to get this to fly, right? It was that next generation. And then the resistance of the record industry and how they just were clinging on to this dying industry. Like it's just, there's so many fascinating sides to that story. It was, anyways, I loved it. My question to you is, what were your main takeaways and how does it compare to the founder for you?
Nothing compares to the founder shoots, but nice one. I finished it, as you know, and very good. Ultimately solved the problem. Again, 2 things: solving problems and then a trend, right? You'll see that they reference multiple times throughout that, like everything's going online anyways, right? They called it Pirate Bay, right, on the competition on the show. So everything was going that way. So he just thought at some stage, it's going to become legal. It's going to pass regulation. Like this is the way it's going. He jumped on, like you can't stop the parade, right? Like again, I've talked about a wave. If you surf, what you really need is a wave. You don't want to be lying on a surfboard, paddling along. Kelly Slater without a wave, right? Looks like a seal, lost it in the middle of the ocean. So there was trend. And then he just solved the problem that, the other streaming services were very blotchy, difficult, in order, because you'll see there's the episode I think that you're talking about there where he had his aha moment. But basically he's sitting there and he's trying to download this song and he's looking at it and he ends up turning away, doing something else, comes back. And it's like, circling around like it's about to come. And then the song finally clicks and then he gets to work. So those are a couple takeaways, and I love, again, if you haven't seen the show, highly recommended. But what they do, which I like, is that everybody's got a totally different perspective of how it went down, right? So like they've got the artist and she's like, yeah, that's not how it went. And then they do the co-founder and he's like, yeah, that's not how it went. And then you've got the developer and he's like, yeah, no, that's not how it went. And then you see it from all the different vantage points. And I thought that was insanely unique, insanely cool. And I think there's something there to, when you're taking on staff and you're building your team, you've got to understand that, they're seeing things from a very different vantage point. Like, I don't know if you saw the bit, but the developer, like he's pissed right off. Like the thing's worth, many, many billions. And he's staring at the lawyer and he's going, you ruined this, right? Like you didn't follow the original roadmap that we had. For, you know what I mean? You didn't follow the original game plan. She's like, I got you. Without me, we went bankrupt. We had 2 weeks until we ran out of cash. I solved the problem. I got us live. I got us the partnership. And you're looking at me telling me I'm the problem. Are you nuts? But understand that he sees things very, very differently than, the lawyer sees it different from the developer who finds it, sees it different than the visionary, et cetera. So anyways, very cool. And consistent with the last couple episodes, I think, yeah, go watch it. It's awesome.
Well, you know what was cool too? The record guy, the executive, right? When he goes home and he's at his jukebox, and that's when it clicks for him of when he finally got what it was, right? He was like, "Holy smokes! It's like an online jukebox with every song ever recorded."
Instantaneous.
So cool,
right? So, anyways, very cool, but love it. Recommend it.
All right. So I guess on that note, let's pivot into a completely different conversation. Let's just imagine for a second, because it's an interesting question that we got. Let me read you the question, because I've got so many different ways of I don't want to say skinning this cat. That's horrific. If you had $100,000 to promote your business coaching company, what would you spend it on? What's interesting to me with that question, as somebody that used to be in the financial services industry, it's so funny because there's so many people that are like, oh, just buy parts or buy somebody else's business, and it's just like some of the biggest mistakes I ever made was that. You're just buying somebody else's headache, when at the time I'm like, man, looking back now, it's like, if I only knew how to market, and you could just attract the right type of clients. But if you had $100,000 right now, and we did a Grant Cardone style drop you in a community or whatever, what would Dr. Karl Bryan do?
Not a doctor. Same answer I've given for decades. I would buy clients. Different than the way that you're describing them a minute ago from financial services, but like an example, I would go to there's a gal or a guy that works at the chamber who sells a lot of memberships. I would introduce myself to that person. I'd probably spend a little bit of money with that person. Grand total of $1,000, probably, whatever it is. It's going to be nominal. I would build a relationship with that individual, and then I would offer $1,000 if they introduced me to somebody who ended up taking me up on my business coaching / consulting services. And then I would gauge. You got to be careful with that. Don't go in too quick and come in too hot, because you can make yourself look a little foolish. But build a genuine relationship. Show them that you really care. Talk about the level of passion. Maybe saving lives, saving families, saving marriages, etc. And I would pay her up front. I wouldn't wait for her to send me the first person. I would get an agreement, and then ideally you get her to, she's going to send you a lot more than one, is the theory. But I would pay her that first $1,000 up front as soon as she commits to sending somebody. That would be an example of buying a client. And by the way, so now somebody's listening and they're worried that she might not actually follow through. Get over it. Do it 3, do it 5, do it 10 times. And yes, you'll get screwed, say 3, but the 7 will pay for the 3 times a lot. So don't worry about that. So the gal at the chamber, and then there's also, look, she makes $35,000 a year. So believe me, $1,000 in her hand goes a long way. Careful of conflict of interest. This is where you got to talk to her and see where she's at and her role. You got to ask the question. There's also like an advertising guy that sells advertising, radio, billboards, the sign in the washroom. You're standing there and there's like an ad pops up. There's the online directory, whatever, anybody's magazine, newspaper, etc. On the blog. There's somebody selling ads for that local newspaper, that local magazine, the Real Estate Times locally. I would go to the ad guy again, take him out for a burger, have a chat to him. What do you see? What are some of the trends? Where are people spending money? Which clients are happy? Which clients are unhappy? Like, you're getting a bit of a feel, building some rapport, and then offer the guy. I would give him $1,000 to send me. Say, I'll give you $1,000 per closed client. We can keep our relationship totally confidential if that's what makes sense. But at the end of the day, anybody you introduce me to, I will offer a money back guarantee. What do you think? He says yes. You say, well, what I like to do is I like to show that I'm serious. So I just like to, here's $1,000 to get us going. I trust that you'll actually send somebody who does become a client, so you're paid up front for the first one, you'll probably get his attention. There's a promotional guy selling hats, t-shirts, whatnot. Again, get in front of that guy. Because what are people buying? Are they buying a membership to the chamber? No, they're trying to grow their business. Are they buying an ad from the ad guy? No, they're trying to grow their business. Are they buying the promo guy selling golf balls, selling t-shirts, selling hats, selling pens, selling, shirts and uniforms? Is that what they're really looking for? No, they're looking for branding, looking to grow their business, trying to, up their game. So do they really need uniforms? Do they really need ads? Do they really need a membership at the chamber? And the answer is maybe, but what they definitely need is an excellent business with recurring revenue, excellent profit margins, a business model they can be proud of, and that works, that's, sustainable, predictable, massive growth opportunities, low risk, and potentially scalability. So that's what they really need. The digital marketer, same thing. Advertising, you go to an accountant, and an accountant has a website, right? Here's a question. Is the accountant selling any advertising on his website? And the answer is a hard no, right? Well, why not offer to grab a banner ad on the accountant's website? Could that maybe get you in the door? That would be, how much are you going to pay the guy? $100 a month, $1,200 a year, maybe $500 a month, $6,000 a year. Well, if you paid him $6,000 a year and he wants to keep you as an advertiser, wouldn't he send a couple people your way? Wouldn't that show him that you're a little bit more serious than somebody else? So he's and does he want a banner ad on his website? I don't know. Probably not. Maybe. Nobody else is asking. It's going to get you in the door. So, but if you were to write the check for $500 a month, $6,000 a year to buy advertising on the accountant's website, that's the equivalent of, that's not directly buying clients, pretty damn close, but going to the gal that sells the memberships, or the advertising guy, or the promotional guy, or the digital marketer, or whoever, the guy who owns the local networking organization, and writing him a check for $1,000 before he sends anybody. This is an example of what I'd refer to as buying clients, and it works really, really well. That strategy, I absolutely crushed it with, and I would encourage you to do so. But if you're worried about the one person or the three people that are going to rip you off out of 10, stop it, stop it, stop it. That's the equivalent. Meet people all the time who don't take credit cards. Why? Because of the merchant fees. And it's oh my goodness, right? By allowing people to pay by credit card, you will make so much more at the end of the year that it's going to make the percentage points embarrassingly small. Because that's 100% the wrong way of looking about doing business. You got to make it really easy for people to do business with you, right? So again, handing somebody $1,000 is an example of putting that relationship on steroids. Whereas what's the competition doing? They're offering $1,000 too, but they pay on results, right? They pay afterwards. I'm paying before. My dad was a professional gambler, and one of the things that we go to a fancy dinner, he'd get up, find the waiter, give the guy $100, say, "There's your tip to start off. See that family over there? They mean a lot to me. This is a big night for us. It's her birthday. If you could, give us some better than normal service, that would be appreciated." And we got waited on with, rose petals and red carpet, etc. So I don't know. You tell me if that, makes sense. But that would be an example of buying clients. And you can't be scared to lose money on the first few months of the client relationship to prove your worth. So another example of buying a client would be you get in front of somebody, and let's say that you're $3,000 a month. Right? Well, month one, make it 500. Month two, make it 1,000. Month three, make it 1,500. Month four, it's 2,000, then 2,500, then $3,000. We'll assume at 500, you're actually losing money, which I don't really think, depending upon how you want to do your math, but you're not really losing money. But let's assume that you're breaking even. Maybe you do $100 for month one, right? At the end of the day, you got started, you got in the door, you got to get that relationship going. At $100, you are losing money by the time you pay your phone, pay for some gas, light some time on fire, etc. Okay, well, that would be an example of buying a client, right? Taking somebody in at a loss, knowing that long term they're going to be well and truly worth it. So, and maybe just again, for those of you that are newer to coaching, it's just most people are one letter away from greatness. And then it's It's not what you earn, it's what you put an L on the front, it's what you learn. If you want to ultimately build, becoming a six figure, multiple six figure, and then hitting becoming a unicorn of the coaching industry and hitting seven figures, you got to be bloody good at what you do, right? So bottom line, earn versus learn. And speaking of predictability, but our boy Tom Brady, look, he threw the football for a while before he started getting paid, right? So again, think about that. He was pretty damn good at throwing that football before somebody wrote him a check, and he suited up for the Patriots. So that what am I getting at? Some people in the coaching industry will tell you that under no circumstances do you coach for free. Blah 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 blah. It's like you're undermining your value. I don't care if you're starting tomorrow. That's just horrific advice, right? Telling Tony Romo that he needed to get paid for throwing the football before he got good at it is just embarrassingly stupid advice, right? So, but that being said, should you do everything for free? Look, you've got a mortgage, you got kids to feed, you got grandkids to feed, you got a life to live. I'm all for making sure that you're charging your clients, but maybe you could think about doing it the way that I just described, like in a scaled way. But I would refer to that as if you charged $100, $500 in month one. And let's assume that that's at a loss or break even. That would be an example that would fall into the family of buying clients and my same strategy. So I used that 100 grand to survive whilst I was building up my client list and building up my, 5, 10, 20, ultimately $30,000 a month for my coaching. So Road Dog, that's my answer, Shoots. I buy clients.
Okay, so first off, is the reason that you're actually not a doctor because you keep prescribing steroids to things? Is that what it is? Because everything apparently is on steroids. It's amazing. So that's my first question. If you lost your medical license to practice because just put everybody on steroids. Listen, the other thing I was just going to say, so good that you touched on that in terms of the discounting, I guess, initially. I just want to go a little further on that, because what if somebody doesn't have like, oh, Carl, I don't have $1,000 that I can just basically give out, like it's just times are tough, whatever. I'm barely making it as it is. Like what else can I do? And that's a good one, right? By the way, because if you're looking at this going, well, if you're prepared to take a loss, but at the same time, it's a lot easier to get clients that way. Well, how many marketing dollars are you saving, right? So there's that equation. And imagine if you could just basically go in and have a model where it's 1, 2, 4, 8, and then whatever 1,500, and you just went out and got 10 of those this month at $100. Half of those are going to stick within 6 months. You're full. So minimum, probably not even, right? Like crazy to think of.
Because what you're saying, right, is if you get people started at the low end, like let's just go at what I used earlier, 500, 1,000, 1,500 to 2,500, then $3,000 ongoing, right? Takes 6 months to get there. Well, what you're doing, like every month, recurring revenue is like the recipe for success, right? Like again, if you don't have recurring revenue, you have a promotion, not a company. So what you're describing by instead of writing the $1,000 check, you're willing to coach somebody. So you go to the gal at the chamber, and rather than write her a check, you say, look, anybody you introduce me to, in the first month, I am going to be willing to discount my fees by $2,500 a month in order to get them started, right? And then you explain the 500, 1,000, 15. She's going to go, wow, okay, look, I know a couple people that are scrambling a little bit, and they would love to take you up on that offer. So it falls into the same family. It's just a different approach. But your recurring revenue in 3 months from now, if you get, 4 or 5 of those clients, do your math and see where you end up in 3 months, and you're going to be looking fantastic and, moving well and truly towards your 6-figure goal of $8,333 a month. There you go.
So the other thing I wanted to add to that, what else do you have, right? Do you have an e-learning system? Do you have something else that you can give away in exchange? Is there it? What else can you, I guess, quote unquote, give away? What else can you leverage? I think is a much better word. What else can you leverage that you currently have that really doesn't cost you anything to give away more of to build off of that? So I think there's those pieces as well, Carl, that I think sometimes get overlooked. And I just think that that's a fantastic way of leveraging the assets and some of the value items that you might be taking for granted, or that you are too obsessed with charging for, when really at the end of the day, it's like, if I gave you access to my online e-learning system for the first 3 months, or you put together a boot camp for $99 for 30 days, and you got 20 people into that, how many of those could you convert? Right. And again, like, boot camp, what? That's not the model from focus.com. That's not what Carl would do. But this is you. This is your business. It doesn't matter. Get creative. Have some fun. Right.
Yeah.
Like that's
Road Dog is currency. So what you're saying. So basically, what other assets do you have that you can provide? So currency. Ultimately, my $1,000 I described earlier is me handing over my cash. Right. So when I give you my time, and I worked for $100 in month one, free in month one, or 500 month one, which is dramatically under my market value, I'm giving away my time and my expertise now, right? So you've got money, you've got time, you've got expertise, you've got relationships. You could introduce the mortgage broker to the realtor to the mortgage broker, the personal trainer to the gym, and the gym to the personal trainer, the florist to the wedding planner to the florist. So you've got that asset, right? Relationship. And then one of the other things, Road Dog, you're referencing, right? The membership site. So we have a membership site. We provide all of our clients. If you valued that at $500 a month, $6,000 a year, if you went to an accountant and gave him 10 memberships to that, that would be $60,000 of value that you're giving up front to the accountant. Or you go to the gal at the chamber, and instead of giving her $1,000 cash, you give her $60,000 of value that she could give away, which is basically 10 memberships to business owners looking to get ahead with their marketing and whatnot, where she can give away those. If you buy today, I'm going to give you access to this. So that's another asset you could give away. So Road Dog, I love it. And what you're defining there is currencies, but there's different forms of currency. Make sure you make it's not just cash, basically. So very good point. Well done.
Okay. So actually, it's crazy. Our chat is lighting up today for the insiders here. And there was actually a really, really solid question in here. And this one, I'd love to hear your answer on this, Carl. So this individual wrote that he stuck with a prospect, right? He used your software and used the Jumpstart 12, found an additional $600K in revenue and $200K in profits. Like, wow, right? Provide an agreement and a summary document. And here it is. You ready for it? I'll get back to you on Friday. Yeah. And now, guess what happened? Nice. Right? You know where this is going. So, like, what would you do? It's like, here you are, you found this guy, just a boatload of potential revenue and money for him. And for whatever reason, the guy's just like not getting back to you. What do you do?
Okay. Great question. By the way, I got to tell you, unfortunately, the answer is this. You can't leave without the deal, right? The mistake, you can't, so when you do a consultation, right? So some folks are using the software that are listening, and then others aren't. At the end of the day, you need to have a process where you basically, look, if you do a Q&A process, do you have a business plan? They say no, little cut. Do you have a marketing plan? They say no, little cut. Do you have a sales process? No, little cut. Do you have joint ventures in place? What's that? You got no idea? Little cut. What are your profit margins? Don't know, little cut, right? So again, I don't want to give out Band-Aids to people who aren't cut. So what I do is I cut you 100 times, then I say, hey, do you want this massive Band-Aid? And it's hard for them to say no, right? Significantly reduced version of everything that we're doing, but you need a process like that. What happened is went through that profit Jumpstart 12. At the end of that, you can never recreate the intensity of that moment. So what you've got to do is make sure that you close them while you're there. And as I always say, don't do your best while you're there. You do what it takes. Like, what would it take to get this guy or gal to agree for you to coach them? So what happened is we did the Jumpstart 12, and then we left without the deal. And now we're coming back with the roadmap. and the guy's just in maybe land, right? Because and again, because he's outside of the intense, you know what I mean? The intensity was lost, and you won't be able to recreate it, by the way. Um, so what would I do? We have that. There's a yes. I used to call it a yes document, but the report that the software populates is literally my old yes document for like 15 more than 17 years ago, 2005, 6, 7, and 8, when I was, so basically that was the roadmap that we used back then. And I created it specifically for this situation where somebody said maybe, so you put a yes document in front of them, but the reality it was done. It's the conversions on that aren't going to be what you want them to be because again, you lost that intensity. So here's what I would do. First of all, you need to, next time, got to make sure that we close them in the moment and then say, look, as we're working together, I'm going to show up next week with the report. And you've got their credit card already, right, before you produce it. But here's what I would do. You got to get this guy or gal back on the phone. And the best way to get anybody on the phone is with an idea, or certainly one of the best that I know of is to have an idea. So let's just say that this is a chiropractor. Maybe it's a candlestick maker, Road Dog. Let's just say it's a chiropractor. You want to get back in front of them. You say, it was awesome meeting you last Tuesday. Great meeting, so many unbelievable opportunities. Ironically enough, when I left, I remembered a couple of I thought of a couple of ideas that we didn't go over that I really think would get you profitable day one, and that again, I think we should go over. Anyways, hope you're doing really well. Let me know when you've got some time. Let's grab 45 minutes. So in case you have some further questions, I'll be able to handle them. Right. So what happened is this guy, there's a really good chance he's going to read that you've got ideas and he's going to be like, what's his idea? Like when I used to sell advertising back in the day, I didn't sell advertising. I sold ideas, and every one of my emails that I sent out, it was idea, 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 idea. I'd get you on the phone. Boom. I'd get your credit card number. I'd get your commitment. I'd get your signature, and bingo, bango, bongo. Right. So that's what I would do is I would not try to close this coaching client. That's not the next step. The next step is to get them back on the phone. If you're looking for a yes via email, it's just not going to come, right? And of course, there's always the anomaly, but we don't play anomalies. We play percentages. So you don't want to do that. You want to you need to get the guy or gal back on the phone. So that's what I would do, Road Dog.
Hey, I got one for you, Karl. Let me know what you think of this one.
Just one second. Road Dog, but you got to just make sure you got to come up with a couple of ideas that you didn't expand upon or maybe even touch on during that meeting, so that when he does ask, you mentioned, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is the idea. But by the way, when you get him on the phone, that's the last thing I'm doing is going over the ideas. I go, so Dave, so tell me, what are you thinking about moving forward? Open-ended question. I want to hear what he says. And then what he says, and I'm not just listening to what he says, but I'm listening to the tonality, the assuredness in his voice or lack thereof. Like 7% of communication is the word. So again, the way that he's saying it. And if you can get in front of him face to face, that's even better. Again, depends if he's a local guy. So that's what I'd be doing, Road Dog. Is the next step is not to try to get a yes via email, because I just don't think that's coming. The next step is to get them on the phone. And those first couple of questions are getting a feel for, like if he said that he had to speak to his wife, right, which again is a bad sign. But so tell me, what did Joanne have to say? Right. So first few questions, I'm getting a really good feel. Little red arrow, you are here. I'm getting a really good understanding as to where this guy is at. And that's going to tell me how much selling I got to do on this call and the intensity at which I got to go about it. So there you go. I hope that helps.
Okay, can I go now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a real life example of something I did once. And it's sort of my no BS, direct to the point approach. I got on a call and I just said, listen, like, you guys loved the presentation. You guys saw the value that I can add. You saw the benefit in working with me. What's it going to take to get this started? and that was it. Like, it was like, how basically, what do we need to do? Like, where do we need to start at for me to come in and prove myself to you? And that's how it started. And guess what? I had them for, I think, just shy of 2 years as clients. So that, which kind of leads to the next question, Carl, because it's an interesting one, right? Um, is there a good time for a coaching client, even to offer a discount? Like, even for coaches, like discounting? Like, we hate it, right? Like, we hate that. Is there a good time for that?
Yeah, like anything, look, I mean, yes and no. It needs to be done with strategy. When done without strategy, it's almost always horrific. The first thing you and your high-end coaching client need to do is decide why they're doing it, right? So start with a clear understanding of the objectives. And how are you going to know if you're successful or not? Like, again, like, create that finish line. Why is a world record going to be broken at the next Olympics with 100% certainty, and almost in not so much in every event, but there will be a swimming world record, there will be a sprinting world record, there'll be a long distance world record. And the reason is because they got a start and a finish line. Very few people create that finish line. So, how are you going to gauge success? And by the way, unless you're looking to establish yourself as a discount retailer, your client is looking to establish themselves as a discount retailer. You want to make sure that you've exhausted other options so that you can preserve those profit margins, right? But the obvious threat here is, if you discount too much, you run the risk of acquiring clients that will never pay full price, or an inability to compete with other businesses that are charging full boat. So this is, if you followed the story of Groupon, right? Speaking of movies, this would be a good one. Or Netflix series, right? Let's get the word out, Road Dog. But Groupon basically had this exact issue, or created this issue for the clients that bought it, and ultimately was their undoing, right? So they would ridiculously unloyal clients ended up, following Groupon around. So determine what you, or maybe your client, can afford. And for a frame of reference, to offer a 10% discount, the average business needs to increase sales by 33% to break even. Okay, I'm going to say that again. If you offer a 10% discount, the average business owner needs to make 33% more sales to break even on previous numbers, right? So that's kind of mind-numbing, and a very good reason to, throw caution in the air prior to doing it. But each business is different, and maybe as in your high-end coaching client, right? His business is different, but probably not, right? So therefore, you got to run the numbers with the goal of determining what kind of sales volume / increase you'd need to account for your clients. Again, I just said 10%, but unfortunately, clients are throwing around 20, 30, and of course, 50% discounts are semi-normal, right? So ask yourself, is that target realistic given the way customers typically respond to special offers? Which, by the way, would assume that they're doing the math in previous promotions, which they're probably not. But that's where, again, you're going to get strategic. If you're going to do a discount and a promotion, make sure that you're collecting data, right? So, like, if they're trying to get rid of old merchandise, and a 30% reduction in price only requires a 10% increase in volume to cover costs, like, that's palatable, right? But it takes a math equation to determine that. That's not gut instinct. It's a math equation, right? Or like when they want to boost the average dollar sale. So just think, do you want to supersize that? Do you want me turned into a meal? Make sure that the amount they require customers to spend is high enough to account for the discount and still include an increase in revenue, right? So all of that to be said, Road Dog, they got to be cautious with it. The answer is maybe, but you'd have to have a reason in order to do so. That's my answer.
The only time I guess you also would never take a discount, and this is Carl speaking from experience, if you're going to a plastic surgeon to repair your nose, as an example.
That may not have happened. My nose is.
Listen, dude, speaking of parades that you like to get in front of, boy, I could take this many different directions right now.
You could.
especially with some of your Mexico stories. But listen, can you give us some examples, if you will, of other acceptable reasons to offer a discount? Like, does that make sense? Like, you get where my mind's at with that question?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, why are we going to, yeah. Okay. So I don't know, to move old product as an example, like a out of season merchandise and products that might be nearing an expiration date. Like car dealerships do this when the new models come in and you're into the grocery store, right? And the cheese is magically on sale. Well, look at the expiry date, right? You're going to see that the closer it gets to the expiry date, magically the cheaper it gets, right? Maybe you do it to lure back old customers, right? They've already paid to acquire the customer, so you've got a bit more wiggle room there, right? When you start factoring their margins, so to lure back old customers. Um, Maybe to promote a new product, right? Like they're launching a new product line. They could use like a short-term discount strategy to encourage people to try it out. Like, so this would be a beta test or an early bird special of some description, or maybe what they're going to do is put themselves on a list, right? You could call that the early bird list, and then get X product for X discount. To save fleeing customers, I guess, would have to be a reason. Like the competition is offering lower prices, you may need to win the price war over the short term, right? Like bring in competition, like bring in the competitors of the competition's coupon and we'll redeem it, right? As in like match their pricing. And that being said, I have to say this, like an added value strategy, maybe more like a more effective way than following that. But I guess your profit margin is going to thank you there, right? But like a Happy Meal at McDonald's is an example of like adding more value as opposed to discounting. So but fleeing customers, that would be one. That's what I was just talking about. Increase the average dollar sale. Like offer a discount on all purchases above a set value to encourage greater spending. So used to have a client that did birthday parties, right? Like it was like what do you call it? Like a store, you come in and buy a bunch of stuff for the birthday, like the streamers and the balloons and all that sort of stuff. So we created a checklist. Most important thing we did, we created a checklist, which just changed everything. And so what happened is mom would come in, and she's going to get the streamers and she's going to get the invites. But then a 16-year-old was there, McDonald's style, with a checklist. And it was like, okay, do you need this? 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 And then, by the way, as they're going through it, oh, by the way, if you spend X, call it three, let's say that the average unit of sale is 200. And then it's like, okay, well, if you spend 300, you automatically get this discount, or you automatically get this, a $50 coupon for next time, or you get a free cake. So anyway, so to increase the average dollar sale, like supersize it as an example of that. So that would be it. I don't know, Rod. Like to generate leads, like that would be obvious, right? Building a list. I guess they kind of said that a minute ago, to increase sales. Like increasing sales is the objective. Make sure you've reviewed these other strategies of adding value, right? It can be very difficult to make a decent profit with discounting. You're increasing sale, like the increase in sales volume needs to cover the cost and the loss of profit margin, basically. Super important. So anyways, that's what I'd say.
Can I just point you the other way just for a second?
Yeah,
Because as we were talking about the Spotify stuff, right, in terms of getting in front of your famous parades, do you think that an astute business owner, I guess depending on what you're selling, I'm thinking more specifically retail, but I guess it could be anything. It could be a service. If you're ahead of the curve, if you will, and you are aware of sort of the next wave of what the next demand and everything else is, you could probably charge a premium. Like, let's go the opposite direction. Would you agree with that?
And again, adding that let's make sure that you've explored these options before you go and think discount, right? Because again, this is like the problem with the average business owners. They'll immediately go to lowering cost, like lowering their prices. I mean, like discounting, and then adding more products and services, right? And like I always say, like literally straight from my opening in Cancun, we did business coaching mastery. Like there's a little company called Apple you might have heard of. And like, what do? Only premium pricing on literally everything, as in they're raising their prices. And they have so few products and services, it would blow you away for a company doing the volume that they're doing. So basically, the average business owner is going if left to their own spidey senses, is going in the exact opposite direction that we recommend. Well, that Steve Jobs would recommend, right? I don't know. Probably not the best idea. So,
Okay, so before we wrap, I'm just gonna just randomly pull a question out of my mind, which is a dark and scary place. But so you've watched the playlist. What else is on your radar right now in terms of what is Karl Bryan watching, reading, listening to, and more so better than that, out of all of that, whatever it is, because I know you, like, you're ridiculous in terms of the amount of the consumption that you put into your humongous brain of yours. What's catching your attention now?
Shoots, these are compliments. I don't know who is this.
Don't worry. I'll cut you completely down on the close. Don't worry.
Okay. So you're waiting for this answer, and then you're going to hammer me. Now, so look, good question. I can tell you that in fact, again, did a video yesterday from the beach. My daughter hanging out, and I may or may not have been drinking a beer right close to snorkeling and like having the best Sunday ever. But anyways, that's not what I'm talking about. But integration is what I touched on in the video. Just hired a new CEO, and we kind of got this, I wrote an email last week about being unsettled. And I said, like, it's not that you're unsettled. It's that, it's not anxiety or some condition. That's not why you're unsettled and feeling anxious. It's that that you're capable of so much more, meant for so much more. Anyway, so just talking about that a little bit. I got a lot of feedback. So with the changes that we're going through here at focus.com, it's just what I've been concentrating on at a super high levels where I'm trying to go is integration. Okay. So BlackBerry and the iPhone may or may not have heard me talk about this, but iPhone didn't kill the BlackBerry. The App Store killed the BlackBerry, right? Like, you loved that keyboard just like Road Dogg did, and so did I. But the iPhone won over, but it wasn't the iPhone. It was the App Store. You fell in love with checking the weather, checking your stocks, checking Facebook, shopping on it, whatever it is that you're clicking, right? Certainly surfing the net. Hitting Safari or Chrome or whatever you're hitting. So it's the apps of the equivalent. Steve Jobs worked for Atari back in the day. They didn't fall in love with Atari. You fell in love with Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, right? So you fell in love with the games. The games, Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, are the apps of Atari. So Atari is the iPhone, and then the games are the dealio, the apps. So integration. Right? So basically, you can go create an app tomorrow, put it in the App Store, and then I can download it and effectively, or upload it, I guess, to my iPhone, so that it's looking at me and it's functional. That's integration. So with our software, the goal, the big picture, is that you're ultimately going to be able to run your entire business coaching company off the back of our software. So everything will be integrated. Zoom will be integrated. GoToWebinar will be integrated. Your calendar certainly be integrated. We've already got a coaching portal. So all the major, applications will be integrated into our thing. So anyway, so that's the answer. There's another one, friction, an example of a frictionless business, like just how much friction is there? Like if you do all of your sales, how much friction is there in Facebook? And the answer is insanely low amount. Try get somebody from Facebook on the phone. It's not happening, right? Like, they don't have people answering the phone. It's not like Zappos. So basically, you've never spoken to somebody at Facebook ever. I can almost guarantee it. Okay, well, think of the low level of friction versus if they had to hire, telemarketers to answer all the calls and whatnot back and forth. Significantly less friction. Doing a bad job of explaining what I'm trying to explain. When you take somebody from a lead to client, and you don't need to speak to anybody, that's frictionless business right there. And what you ultimately want to provide. If you want to build $1 billion valuation, you're one of the first things that, people are looking at, high-end investors, etc. They're looking for a blue ocean, and then they're looking at the amount of friction you've got within your business. So anyway, just looking at friction, like what Jeff Bezos will say is that raving fans don't send support tickets, right? So every time we get a support ticket, what we're doing is we reverse engineer that, right? And it's like, okay, well, why are they asking? At what point are they asking? And how can we make sure that nobody ever asks that again, right? Like, again, a support ticket would be an example of friction, right? So yeah, these are Road Dog integration and friction. There's what is on my mind. How was that?
Listen, so three points. First off, I have no problems getting Facebook on the phone, but that's just because I'm an advertiser. And funny enough, how much easier that got when TikTok started eating their lunch for them, by the way. Hilarious how that just kind of changed the game a little bit there. But you talk about raving fans. So there's a certain all-in-one, if you will, funnel software. I'm not going to, if you want to know, just message me, but I'm not going to promote them for free on a podcast. What's interesting to me is even in speaking with them, it's like they know what they'd like to do, but they don't do that typically because they'll end up just adding more of the features that their clients are demanding. Like, it's just so fascinating how it's like, we know that we need a more comprehensive CRM, but we're not going to take the time and resource to do that when clients are deliberately asking for posting directly to social media or whatever it may be, or integrating with Google for reviews and stuff like that. Blows my mind, right? Again, serving your clients and understanding their needs. When you talk about BlackBerry, this is because, again, you and I, we freaking loved BlackBerry. Where they went wrong, and here's the craziest part. I should pull it up. Maybe you can Google this. Like, what did WhatsApp get sold for? Like, how many billions did Facebook pay for WhatsApp? BBM was the absolute best fully encrypted messaging platform ever created back in the day. Who wasn't on BBM? And you could use it anywhere. I remember being in Vegas years ago when we're all on BlackBerry. We didn't have to worry about what Wi-Fi plan we're on because we're all using BBM. It was the one weird dude on the iPhone that wasn't part of our group chat. Like, think about that. And what did they do? They didn't double down on the thing that could have made them billions, right? Like, it's just so, and then what happened? Nothing. Like, that's the crazy part. Like, when I look back at that, I'm like, holy smokes, they were sitting on a freaking gold mine and they didn't do anything with it. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, it's an asset. At the end of the day, it's intellectual property, right? Like, it's like in BlackBerry, it's not just about the BlackBerry and the magic of BlackBerry and the magic of iPhone is the intellectual property behind it, right? You got Android, debatably better, maybe iPhone's better, maybe Android's better. But at the end of the day, it's the intellectual property and the ability to, how functional it is. So BlackBerry had that. They had private messaging, licensed, locked up, end of story back in the day, and they let it slip through their fingertip shoots. And yeah,
I just Googled it. Do you want to take a guess what Facebook paid for WhatsApp?
10 billion.
16.
So there you go.
There you go.
Everybody was like, Facebook is insane. And they said the same thing about Instagram, by the way. And they're saying the same thing about Metaverse. And my guess is in 5 years, he's going to look pretty smart about Metaverse. But shall see.
Exactly. Well, who knows, man? Now with Elon, with Twitter, there's a whole random. We could keep going, but we got to wrap this up, Karl, because that would be a fun conversation. Maybe for next week we can talk about the brilliance or the stupidity of Elon and Twitter, because that's a whole conversation in and of itself that I'd love to pick your brain on. But why don't you close us out with one thing of the many things that we discussed today that somebody can take and put into place today to help them grow their coaching practice?
Okay, before I do that, I want to hear part of the joke from today in my email.
Always, bud. Is it with Dangerous Dave?
No, it wasn't. before electric cars, Elon Musk was just Lawn Musk.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like put that on the dad joke list. There it is, folks. You know what? They just call them dad jokes. And then at least you can get away with like some of these jokes, bud. Like, oh my God. Elon Musk. All right. Besides not using that joke ever at a party, what else would you recommend somebody takes from today's podcast?
Again, for sure, buying clients. So if I had $100,000 and I was going to promote my company, your company, their company, the candlestick making company, I would 100% buy clients. Like an example of that in a retail dynamic, you take product, like let's say, you take $10,000 of product, and that might be a bit high, by the way, on an experiment, but take $10,000 of product and basically put it on shelves, right? And then once that product runs out, you're back and say, hey, here's your next $10,000 order. But rather than buying advertising, right, what you're doing is you're buying clients, you're buying, and by the way, you're not just buying clients, but you're buying data. And ultimately, data is the number one commodity in the world by about 100 million miles. When I say the number one commodity in the world, you probably think of oil, and then you probably think of coffee. And that is not the case, not even close. The world has changed dramatically, and the number one commodity by a million miles is data. And your coaching client isn't collecting any. So before you go and spend $100,000 buying clients, make sure that you do it in an intelligent way, collecting data so that you can win, right? So anyways, buying client shoots, it's a ripping strategy and works with ridiculous predictability when deployed properly.
Okay, and now, for my opinion, that nobody asked for, but you're going to get anyways, is if you want, as Karl just mentioned, data or data, whatever you prefer, take a look at what you're posting on social media and take a look at who's engaging with what content. And then you'll know exactly what to talk to them about. Boom. All right, on that note, listen, everybody, thanks for tuning into another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with myself, the Road Dog, always underrated, of course, and the small man himself, on steroids, Karl Bryan. I'm trying to cut you down as best as I can right now. He is number one in your hearts, but he was number, 22 on the schedule? What was your number again, Shoots? I should know this.
It's always, otherwise I went home.
That's it. Wow. All right, take your ball and go home, Karl Bryan. Was that your middle name? Take your ball and go home. I can't wait to talk to Huntsy about that. Hey, listen, if you're not on the inside and getting asked at the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily dad joke emails, which, by the way, also are filled with a tremendous amount of value inside of them, go to focus.com and subscribe today. And also there you can learn much more about all of the group coaching software, the quick start and all that sort of that fast start, and everything else that we've been talking about. And also to join us as an insider, go to focus.com. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with a fellow coach or someone that you think might make a great business coach. And of course, as always, if you enjoyed it, please leave a review, as we know that is going to move us up the old ranks of those streaming services. And that is it for another week. And as I like to finish every single time, remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody. We'll see you in the next episode.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.